All right, I'm coming to you with a special report from the negotiations between the school district, District 51, and the MVEA Teachers Union. I was able to be at some of the meeting today. I missed the one yesterday. I didn't know these were publicly available. Now that I know, I'll definitely be at the next one. The thing I would like to point out is that there, as far as I know, has not been any media members here at these negotiations. A little bit of backstory. The last meeting that I was at, maybe a month ago, they were talking about the teachers union president's salary, right? And the district has been paying almost half of that salary, which is over $70,000 a year. The union was here, and a bunch of teachers were here that were in the union, and they were, advocating that the district continue paying for that salary. So the other thing that was being advocated for by Amy Sue, which I believe she's the president of the union, she was asking for the board members to be part of the negotiations. Now, a year or two ago, the board decided to not be part of the negotiations, to be not in the room themselves. Part of the reason I've gathered for that is that, in years past, sometimes the board, they don't know the technical language, and so they're going into a negotiation on something that they don't fully understand, and in the moment they're not able to communicate properly, and so that ends up kind of messing up negotiations or getting in the middle of it when they have the professionals in the room that they would rather have doing the negotiations anyways, because the board isn't that, right? They're not the professionals. So the board then, gets their report. They have a video of what happened, and then they can vote on it later. Now, I just want to bring up the fact that when the union president is asking for board members to be in the room during negotiations, one of the things that is really just interesting about that is, the union funds the board's campaigns, right? And in fact, in the last election, they put around $30,000 into the last election, the school board election. Now, that $30,000 to fund those campaigns, and then they're like upset now. They're demanding now that the board members be in the negotiations themselves. Now, from an outsider's perspective, just, looking at this, you have the union funding a school board member's campaign and then having that school board member in the negotiations at the table negotiating with them. If that's not a conflict of interest, and this, I'm just throwing my opinion into that, I don't know what is. Okay. And so it's one thing to say we want board members in the room, which is, if you really wanted that, fine. But what I'm trying to say is they're used to having the majority of the board being funded by them in their campaigns. And I'm talking about the majority of the money that came into these campaigns came from the unions, not from local residents. And this is the last two campaigns that I've followed, the last two school board races I've followed. The majority of the money that those candidates raised came from the unions, from their committees. And so it's like what they're used to having in the past is a board that they funded at the negotiating table with them. And now that there's a board, the ones that got elected now, 4 out of the 5 were not funded by the union, right? And they're demanding that they be in the room, and that's just really that just gets me personally. I don't know about you, but for me personally, that takes the conflict of interest to a whole nother level. And on top of that, obviously, her salary is being paid for by the district. So she's in the room, or the union is in the room negotiating with somebody who's paying half the salary of their president and negotiating with board members that they funded themselves and put into office. Okay, that's where we were at before we had a board that isn't funded by the union. And now, right, our board members aren't in the room, and it's just, the staff and the lawyer, and they're negotiating. And then, anybody in the public can be there too. And, they've been getting raises. They got a raise the last time. They're getting a raise this time in the negotiations. Now, getting into some of the stuff that happened, I had a teacher reach out to me and give me some more information about last night since I wasn't here. And they said it got pretty contentious. They said that there was a little bit of some of the staff or somebody had to kind of ask everybody to calm down. District basically came out and said they wanted to give, on average, like a 10% raise to the staff of the entire district, including the teachers that are in the union and out of the union and everybody else. And one of the things that the union essentially was asking is, instead of giving that raise to everybody as much as they had proposed, why not take a percentage of that raise and then pay, instead of paying it out to the staff of the entire district, pay the teachers union president's portion of the salary. So the union is essentially demanding that all the staff of the entire district not take the pay raise as much as they would. Now, what I reported before was that basically they said if the district is not willing to pay for that teachers union president's salary anymore, their portion of it, then they're just going to charge the teachers extra per month in their membership. Okay, so there were community members here that spoke about that and just said, they were, a couple of them were part of unions in the past and said, I would never expect the employer to pay part of my union president's salary anyways. I personally expect to pay that myself if I'm part of the union. That was their point. Personally, and I'll just tell you, this is my opinion, my point, was that why not, almost 80% of the money that they get at the MVEA goes out to their affiliates. And a lot of that goes to fund political campaigns. They put $30,000 into the last school board election, right? But they fund all kinds of campaigns, secretaries of state and all kinds of campaigns. And among other things, they do lobbying. They work with trying to get book publishers into the school system. There's a whole lot that those unions do. But let's just, for now, I'll just say 80% of the money does not stay locally in the MVEA. Rather than giving less money to the affiliates, they're just going to charge the teachers, or they want the district to take that and basically charge the entire staff, that whether they're part of the union or not, rather than negotiate with the CEA or the NEA and send less money out of town. That to me is the most crazy thing about this entire situation. And by the way, so I know I'm saying about 80%. I'm going to post the tax filings that are from 2022 for the Mesa Valley Education Association so that you can see that I'm not just making that up. Okay, I think it's 78.5% of the money goes to the affiliates. Okay, that's the NEA, the CEA, and the Western Slope affiliate. And then I would like to point out, just as a couple of examples, I could list a lot of examples of people that have been funded by them. One of them is Brian Lindstrom. The other one is Tim Hernandez, and they are very extreme candidates. They both were part of the Democratic Socialists of America, and I'll just leave it at that. You can look them up. My whole point is, though, You know, from my perspective as a citizen, I'm asking the question, would I rather the teachers union fund a democratic socialist in our legislature, and then have the district with my own tax dollars paying the salary of their president? Or how about the union stop sending money to fund these types of radical candidates and pay for their own president's salary?